Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over Sol Ring. I'm going to show you what it does, how to use it, and when to buy it. Starting off, Sol Ring costs 805 gold, and this is a relatively cheap item. It's basically one of these smaller items. It's not a basic item, so it's not only a few hundred gold. It is a little bit more expensive than that, but it's a relatively early game item, a pretty cheap item overall. And it gives you 6 strength and 2 armor, which is not a ton, but it is pretty significant. But really the reason that you buy this item is for the active, which is sacrifice. And unlike a lot of other items or abilities, this one actually costs health instead of mana. So it costs 170 health and has a 25-second cooldown. And the reason why it costs health is because this is actually a mana item. So yes, it gives you strength. Yes, it gives you armor. So that's some tankiness, which is a benefit, of course, for pretty much any hero. But really, this is an item for heroes that have a lot of tankiness already, have a lot of regen, and then need some mana. Because what this active does is it consumes 170 health to temporarily gain 170 mana, and that mana lasts for 10 seconds. So you have to use that mana within 10 seconds, otherwise it disappears, and you don't really get back any health or anything like that. You just have that 170 mana for 10 seconds. And one important thing to note is this bottom text that says, if the mana gained cannot fit into your mana pool, it creates a buffer of mana that will be used before your mana pool. So basically what that means is you don't have to have any mana missing. You can use this item at full mana to get more mana to cast spells. So that is important. It's not like you have to use this after you have half mana or something like that. You can use it right out of base after you have full mana, full HP, and use it immediately to gain that extra benefit of more mana. So now to show you how Sol Ring actually works, I picked Alchemist here because this hero loves to buy Sol Ring, and that's because you're going to be spamming Acid Spray to farm later in the laning stage and then also in the jungle to hit this hero's item timings. And as a strength hero, you do benefit from the strength and from the armor, which is great, but then you also really benefit from having more mana because you generally have a relatively small mana pool. Usually strength heroes don't have a ton of mana. So all you have to do is click this item, and then you can see it goes on cooldown. I get a buff here. My health goes down a little bit because it costs some health, and then I get a 821 mana. I can use the Acid Spray, and then after that debuff goes away, the mana that I gained, even at full mana, like I talked about from the Sol Ring, that goes away, and I'm back to full mana. So I basically just got a free Acid Spray, which is fantastic. You can also do a combination of things where, let's say I'm here and even let's say I'm low health or something like that, and I still want to use Acid Spray, even if I'm only at 500 health, I can still use this pretty quickly, press the Acid Spray down, use my ultimate to use that extra little bit of mana, and now I'm regenning back up to full. It really costs me almost nothing to use both of these abilities when I pop the Sol Ring. So you can see this is a perfect item on this hero. That doesn't mean you're going to buy it every single game, but it is very, very good for a hero like Alchemist. Then the last thing I wanted to show you is just that you obviously get mana even if you have no mana. So let's say I don't have my ultimate running. There was a lion on the enemy team, drained all my mana. I can quickly press this and then press my ultimate, and now I got all that mana back for the cost of health. So it also works at no mana so that you can pop BKB, or you can pop an ultimate, or you can pop any kind of ability that you need to. And the other thing to know is that it doesn't cancel blink. So even if, let's say, we refresh here and we use this, it's not like that damage that I'm costing myself cancels blink. So potentially, let's say you want to click this, click BKB, and then blink out or something like this. There's a bunch of different things that you can do because this self-damage doesn't cancel stuff like Blink Dagger that gets canceled by damage. So in terms of heroes that like to buy Sol Ring, I already said Alchemist is the perfect example, and other heroes like Alchemist are great examples. Strength heroes that can benefit from that strength and armor that also spam spells to farm in the early game and have some kind of regen component. So obviously with Alchemist, you're spamming your Acid Spray. You have regen in your ultimate. Bristleback is a great example. You buy regen items, you're super tanky, you're spamming your spells constantly to farm. Dawnbreaker, another great example. You're using your spells to farm, harass, chase the enemy, all that kind of stuff, and you have a regen component in your passive. Tidehunter would be another one. You're pretty tanky and you have a low mana pool. You want to be using Sol Ring. You're not buying it every game, obviously, but you can use a Sol Ring if you feel like you have mana problems. Mars is another great example. Using your abilities constantly to farm and in fights and everything, you need mana to make this hero effective. A hero that doesn't buy Sol Ring, that's like a tanky strength hero, maybe Lifestealer, Lycan, these are more right-click oriented heroes. Something like Legion, obviously, yes, you can get your spells off and you do kind of farm with them, but that's not really what you want to be doing. You want to have your health and you don't need it. You don't need to spam your spells. Something like Kunkka, you're farming with your passive. So yes, your spells are good, but you don't necessarily need that mana to farm the jungle or something like that to get your farm on the map to clear through waves. So you're not really going to buy Sol Ring. You could, but it's not the best on that hero. So strength heroes are kind of the quintessential example, those ones I talked about. Agility heroes, not really so much. You're going to, honestly, it's going to be rare to find an example where you're buying Sol Ring on an agility hero. Intelligence heroes, on the other hand, you can buy it here and there on something like Storm because you're using so much mana. You like the armor, you like the strength, but it's really just the fact that you're using so much mana. Having that little bit of extra mana for farming and just using your abilities in general can be good in certain games, in certain metas. And then lastly, similar to intelligence heroes, universal heroes, there are certain examples where you could buy it, like on a Brewmaster to make sure you get your ultimate off, on like an Enigma maybe here and there, but most of the time you're not buying it on these heroes. Most intelligence heroes aren't buying it, and agility heroes pretty much never buy it, to be honest. It's really strength heroes for the most part that like to spam spells. And then lastly, how do we build the item and when do we buy it? Well, you can see here it's built from Ring of Protection, 2 Gauntlets of Strength, and a recipe. And actually, this item is bought super early in the game, usually during the laning stage at some time in that laning stage portion. Maybe not the first item you get, but you actually can spend starting gold on some of these components and build into the Sol Ring a little bit later, because yes, you don't usually want to be costing yourself health in the first maybe 5 minutes, but once the lane starts breaking down and you can go to the jungle and stuff, especially if it's a hero that can go jungle early, or let's say you're an alchemist and you get 6 early, having the Sol Ring can just speed up your farm a lot. And also having 2 armor in the lane can be good. Having a Gauntlet of Strength, that 3 strength, 3 damage, all that stuff is really good for the lane. And this is usually an item that you're buying kind of instead of a Bracer, Wraithband, Null Talisman kind of thing. So that's why you can have a Gauntlet of Strength or 2 in your starting items. Or if you really need armor because it's a right-click harass lane, having this Ring of Protection is great if you know from the get-go that you're going to build into Sol Ring eventually in the game. And so for the most part, you're buying this item extremely early in the game. You know, you're not going to buy it first item necessarily. You're probably going to finish like your boots first, maybe a wand first, but after those small starting items or the things you're buying every single game, then you're going to buy Sol Ring probably, like I said, around that 5-minute marker, a little bit later, maybe once you hit 6, because your 6 timing is when you get regen, or maybe you just have like a Bristleback and you're buying Vanguard first, and then right after Vanguard, you're buying this, or maybe Brown Boots Vanguard into this. And so it's like this mid-game after the laning stage breaks down timing where you're going to be using more spells to farm jungle and stuff like that. So that is kind of when you're buying Sol Ring. You're probably never buying this like after 10 minutes, unless you're having a terrible game and you just have no farm and it's still like your 3rd item. But still, there's really never going to be a situation where it's 15, 20, 30 minutes in the game and you're going back for a Sol Ring. That really doesn't make any sense at all, unless there's some weird, very specific situation like a Tide that you have Refresher and you just have barely enough mana and you have a slot, or like there's a mana burn hero and you just need to get something off. Like, but that is rare, like 0.001% of games you're going to be buying this late game. For the most part, you're starting off with a Gauntlet of Strength or 2 or a Ring of Protection, and you're building into this, you know, as a 3rd small item for the laning stage and for farming early. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is just that even though you're an alchemist, even though you're a Dawnbreaker, that doesn't mean you're going to be buying Sol Ring every single game. I will say it's obviously patch dependent, so follow the builds for that patch, because sometimes Sol Ring is really good, sometimes it's bad, just depending on buffs and nerfs. But in general, if you want to think about it, you want to think about it mainly as a mana farming item. So for instance, on Dawnbreaker, am I going to buy Echo Saber? Is that the build that I'm going into this game? And so if I have that mana regen from Echo Saber and I can buy a few clarities, I don't need the 800 gold to spend on Sol Ring when I could maybe get a Bracer for 500, a little bit cheaper, and then go into that mana regen for the Echo Saber a little bit earlier, so my timing is a little bit better or something like that. So that is really the consideration there. Or Alchemist is another great example. Let's say I did buy the Ring of Protection or maybe even a Gauntlet of Strength for the laning stage, but I had such a good lane that I just want to get my Radiance timing as quickly as possible, and spending that extra gold, you know, to make 800 gold for the Sol Ring, that's just going to delay my timing, and I don't really need it right now. Maybe I'll spend 100 gold on clarities, and that's really all I need to get that great Radiance timing. And so that's how you really want to think about Sol Ring, is it's just a mana item, and do I really need it? Do I want to spend that 800 gold, or do I want to get these other item timings? Do I want to build into Echo Saber faster, or do I want to get my Radiance timing faster? And that really is a judgment call. It's a kind of case-by-case basis, game by game, depending on the situation, depending on on what's happening and how good Sol Ring is in that specific patch and all those kinds of things. And a lot of time, that's just a feel. That's a comfortability kind of thing. That's just when you think you can get your farm. Do you just feel like you're running out of mana so much and it's really, really impacting how you're able to play the game? You know, maybe you're using your mana to farm, but then you don't have your mana for fights and you just need that Sol Ring because you've played enough games on this hero to know that if you don't have it just with your playstyle, you're not going to be able to have the impact that you otherwise want to have. And that, everyone, is Sol Ring. I hope this helped you better understand the item and when to buy it. As always, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.